Growing up in a family of restaurateurs, I quickly learned that food was more than nourishment, it was memory, legacy, and love served steaming hot in bowls that told stories words never could. My grandmother's noodle shop in Chinatown wasn't just a business, it was survival during lean years, community when times were hard, and celebration when life was generous. Remember, May, she would tell me as her fingers worked tirelessly, folding dumplings with the precision of an artist. Good food comes from the heart. Ingredients are just the beginning. I believed her, and because of her, I poured my soul into every dish. What no one in the family, not even my grandmother, knew, was that when the lights dimmed and the shutters closed, I turned from dumplings and broth to case studies and balance sheets. Behind the restaurant counter, I was the dutiful granddaughter. In the glow of my laptop after midnight, I was a student of global business strategy. My secret? An online MBA, pursued while the city slept. By day, I mastered the weight of spices and the snap of fresh vegetables. By night, I analyzed market trends and studied corporate finance. The restaurant gave me roots. My studies gave me wings. Then James walked in. It was raining that night, a relentless downpour that left the streets gleaming with reflected neon. He appeared in the doorway, tall, elegant, and hopelessly misplaced in his tailored suit and dripping overcoat. He scanned the small dining room, then looked straight at me. "What would you recommend?" His voice was polite, but there was curiosity behind it. "Our hand-pulled noodles with braised beef," I replied. "It's warm, comforting, exactly what you need on a night like this." He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that softened his otherwise polished exterior. "Then I'll trust you." Minutes later, he slurped his first mouthful. His eyes widened, then closed as though the flavors demanded his full surrender. When he opened them again, they fixed on me. "This is," he paused, savoring the words, "unlike anything I've ever had." That moment began a romance I hadn't expected. James returned again and again, each visit deepening our conversations. He spoke of finance, of markets and mergers. I spoke of food, of customers who came not only hungry but searching for connection. He never knew about my MBA, or the company I was quietly building on the side. With James, I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I could offer. 6 months later, he proposed. No grand gestures, no lavish parties, just the two of us, after hours, in my grandmother's kitchen, sharing the very noodles that had first brought him through my door. But love, I would learn, was rarely simple. The Chens. The first time I met the Chen family, I knew I was walking into enemy territory. The Chens were old money, owners of Chen Global Hospitality, a powerhouse that defined luxury across Asia. Hotels, restaurants, resorts, they controlled it all. Richard Chen, the patriarch, commanded boardrooms with a single glare. His wife, Victoria, embodied aristocratic elegance, always wrapped in silk and disdain. Amanda, their daughter, wielded her role as director of operations like a sword, sharp and ready to cut. And then there was James, the son who was supposed to carry on the dynasty. When James introduced me as his fiancé, Victoria's brows arched. "A family restaurant?" Her voice was honey wrapped around glass. "How quaint." Amanda didn't bother with pretense. "James, you can't be serious. We're Chens. We own restaurants, not food stalls." James's hand tightened around mine under the table, but he said nothing. That silence stung more than Amanda's words. The engagement dinner at their flagship, the Imperial Palace, was no better. Between silver chandeliers and gilded menus, I felt the weight of their judgment pressing on me like a physical force. "May, dear," Victoria called sweetly across the table, "is it true you cook everything yourself, or do you have proper chefs?" Amanda laughed, tilting her glass of wine. "Mother, be kind. Not everyone has access to Parisian culinary schools." I swallowed the sting and smiled. "I trained under my grandmother. 3 generations of recipes." "How sweet," Victoria interrupted. "James, remember our private course with Chef Michel in Paris? Such a formative experience." James chuckled awkwardly. "Mother, please." But what I remembered was his silence, always silence. What they never knew, what James didn't know, was that while they dismissed me as a girl clinging to a noodle shop, I was the founder of Food Tech Solutions, my AI-driven food service company. still under wraps, was already valued at $3.2 billion. Restaurants in Tokyo, Paris, and New York quietly used my systems to optimize menus and cut waste. I wasn't just running a kitchen, I was preparing to redefine the global food industry. And still, the Chens saw only a woman beneath them. The breaking point. The breaking point came at a dinner in Victoria's mansion. The chandeliers glittered. The silverware gleamed. I brought with me containers of my grandmother's recipes, dishes meant to bridge the gap between us. Victoria's nose wrinkled. "Oh, you brought takeout." "I made these myself," I said evenly. "They're family dishes." Amanda poked at the food with visible disgust. "How authentic. But let's be serious. For the wedding, we need a proper caterer. We have a reputation to maintain." James sat beside me, face glowing in the blue light of his phone. "The wedding menu is decided," Victoria announced. "Chef Pierre from Paris will handle it. No street food." My phone buzzed. I glanced at the alert and nearly laughed at the irony. Chen Global Hospitality stock had plummeted 30% in after-hours trading. Reports of fraud and mismanagement were spreading like wildfire. Victoria paled. Amanda typed frantically. Richard barked into his phone. James froze. "I need to go to the office," James muttered. I stood slowly. "Actually, I think I can help." The room fell silent. Amanda scoffed, though her voice shook. "Unless you can conjure $500 million, I doubt it." I reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. "Food Tech Solutions," I said calmly. "Have you heard of it?" Amanda's face drained of color. Richard lowered his phone. Victoria's glass trembled. "Of course we've heard of it," Richard said slowly. "Everyone in the industry has. What of it?" I turned the screen toward them, displaying our financials. "I founded it 3 years ago. We're valued at $3.2 billion. And yes, Amanda, I can conjure $500 million. The silence was deafening. James's voice cracked. "You? But you run a small restaurant." I met his eyes. "I run many things, James. The restaurant is my heart. Food tech is my mind." Victoria whispered. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wanted to be respected for who I am, not for what I own," I said quietly. "But tonight, you've shown me exactly who you are." Amanda slammed her fist onto the table. "This is ridiculous. You expect us to." "I expect you to decide." I cut her off, my voice calm but unyielding. "Chen Global Hospitality is collapsing. I can help, but there will be conditions." Richard's sharp eyes gleamed, not with disdain now, but calculation. "Name them." "Your leadership is incompetent." The words dropped like a thunderclap in the Chen family's lavish dining hall. Amanda's fork clattered against her plate as she sputtered, eyes flashing. "How dare you?" I didn't flinch. "Second, Chen Global Hospitality must fully implement food tech solutions across all properties. Your outdated methods are bleeding money." The silence thickened, broken only by the ticking of the gilded grandfather clock in the corner. Every tick seemed to measure out their dwindling fortune. "And third," I continued, my voice calm, deliberate, "a public acknowledgement of our partnership, and that I, owner of that little restaurant, am the one who saved Chen Global Hospitality." Victoria gasped, her pearl necklace trembling against her chest. "You can't possibly expect us to." "I can." I cut her off, leaning forward. "Your stock is in free fall. By morning, half your market value will be gone. Investors will demand heads. If you want survival, you'll swallow your pride." James finally spoke, reaching for my hand like a lifeline. "May, please, let me talk." I pulled my hand back. His touch, once reassuring, now felt hollow. "No, James, we need to discuss us." The room froze. Even Richard, usually unflappable, went still. "You've let your family insult me, my heritage, my work, for months. You sat there quietly, laughed at their jabs, and never once defended me. Tonight, when everything came crashing down, your first instinct wasn't to shield me, it was to run to the office." My throat tightened, but I forced my voice steady. "I don't need a partner who values me only when it's convenient. I need someone who'd stand beside me even if I had nothing." Victoria rose suddenly, her mask of aristocratic composure cracking. "Now see here." "No," I snapped, my voice slicing through the tension. You see here, I hoped to be accepted for who I am. Instead, you showed me who you are. Either accept my terms and save your empire, or let your pride bury it. Gathering my laptop and the untouched containers of food I had brought, I stood tall. You have until tomorrow morning. My team will be in touch. Amanda's voice cracked as I turned for the door. You can't just walk away. This company is our legacy. I paused, looking back only once, and you've driven it into the ground. If you had focused on innovation instead of judgment, you wouldn't be here. The image burned into my memory, James's stricken face, Victoria's trembling hands, Richard's calculating stare. Their empire was crumbling, and the only lifeline they had left was the woman they had deemed unworthy. Sometimes power doesn't roar. Sometimes it walks out carrying takeout containers. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office. I sat behind a sleek oak desk, overlooking the city that had once dwarfed me but now bowed to my influence. My phone buzzed nonstop, messages from Richard's lawyers, panicked voicemails from Amanda, and finally, a desperate text from Victoria herself. My assistant, Sarah, entered with green tea, her expression unreadable. The Chen family is in the lobby, all of them. I checked the clock. 7:30 a.m. Punctual, desperate, right on schedule. Let them wait 10 minutes, I said, sipping my tea. Anxiety seasons any negotiation. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. Let them wait. May. Hunger sharpens appetite. Worry sharpens humility. When they finally entered, the transformation was striking. Victoria's impeccable poise had wilted into fatigue. Amanda looked rumpled, her confidence stripped away. Richard's eyes betrayed sleepless desperation. And James, oh, James, he lingered at the back, a shadow of the man who once smiled at a bowl of noodles like it was salvation. The paperwork is ready, I said coolly, gesturing to the documents on the polished conference table. Shall we begin? Richard cleared his throat. Before we start, I just want to say. Save it, I interrupted. This is business, not sentiment. Your company is hemorrhaging value. Let's focus on the solution. For 2 relentless hours, we dissected every clause. Food Tech Solutions would provide emergency funding, acquire a 40% stake, and implement our AI systems across all properties. Amanda would be stripped of her role as Director of Operations, replaced by one of my senior executives. Amanda's voice rose, shrill with rage. This is extortion. Richard silenced her with a look that carried the weight of collapse. It's survival, he admitted hoarsely. Victoria finally spoke, her voice trembling. And James? Where does he stand in all this? I met her gaze, unyielding. James is not part of this conversation. He forfeited his place the moment he chose silence over respect. James stepped forward, desperation flickering in his eyes. May, please, just give me a chance to explain. I considered him, then nodded. 5 minutes, alone. Inside my private office, he paced like a man lost at sea. Why didn't you tell me about any of this? Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Would you have defended me if you'd known I was worth billions? Or would you have stayed silent all the same? I was trying to keep the peace. No, James, you were trying to keep your family comfortable at the cost of my dignity. That's not peace, that's cowardice. He reached for me again, anguish etched into every line of his face. I love you, May. Isn't that enough? Love without respect isn't love, James, it's dependence. When I returned to the conference room, the papers were signed. Chen Global Hospitality was no longer theirs alone, it was mine too. And for the first time, they understood what true power looked like. 6 months later, Chen Global was thriving, its stock higher than ever. Food Tech Solutions became the beating heart of their operations, and the press lauded me as the visionary who had saved a dynasty. James sent flowers, letters, and even tried to visit. I declined them all. Some doors, once closed, should never reopen. But my grandmother's noodle shop remained unchanged. The line still wrapped around the block. The broth still simmered with care. And in that kitchen, I was not a billionaire CEO or the savior of an empire. I was simply May, granddaughter, cook, keeper of tradition. Success can build empires, but integrity keeps them standing. And as my grandmother always said, good food comes from the heart, not just the ingredients.